Hi there, welcome to this video where we look at Kentico's multilingual sites. My name is Clyde D'Souza. I'm a software developer by profession, and over the past few years I've been working with multiple Kentico applications. Today we'll be looking at Kentico's Xperience product, which is their digital experience platform. And the objectives of this video is to set up a multilingual site. Then we'll configure a translation service. Next, we'll update the language selector on the website so that it reflects the newly added multilingual site. And then finally, we'll look at how to find more information should you need any. If you have not guessed it by now, this video is targeted towards developers. So if you're a content admin, you'll probably not find this video as useful as you would find some other videos that I've posted on this channel. Alright, let's first start setting up our multilingual site. So what I've done is I have this Dancing Goat website that I have installed on my PC. It's just the regular template, out of the box template that Kentico provides. As you can see, there's already two sites set up. So one is the default English site and the other one is the Spanish site. So these two are already set up, and so we have some idea of how it is set up. So if you are starting new, if you're a developer starting new, feel free to install this and see how this site was set up, and then follow this video to follow along with this video to actually set up a third site. And that's exactly what we'll do today. So let's head over to this particular browser. I have the site URL over here, and now the first thing that we would do is we would log into the administrator portal. So we go admin and we'll log in as an administrator. That takes a while. There you go. So we'll log in as an administrator and we'll see how to actually set up a third site. So if we head over to pages, just like to show you the fact that it is so if you head over to the pages portal, the first thing that you'll look at is at the bottom left of your website, which shows you the languages. And if you want to switch between both languages, so you can click over here and then select Spanish, for example, and then the entire CMS portal will load in that language. So let's switch back to United States for now, and let me drag myself to the right hand side of the screen so I can maximize this this screen. Alright, so the first step really of this video is to add a multilingual site. So obviously there's no add new button over here, and so the options reside somewhere else. The first thing you will want to do is go on to sites, and from there select the Dancing Goat website. Oops. Let me see if I can click this without. Alright, so from the Dancing Goat website, let's head over to cultures, and then the list is basically the languages that are already set up on the site. And as you would imagine, we would need to add a new culture, and so you can have a look at this particular page. So if I scroll down, there's heaps and heaps of cultures already available for you. So depending on what language you are wanting to add on the site, that's what you would select from here. Now for the sake of this demo, I really want to set up something that I can actually understand myself, and so I can really validate if the content that appears on the site in this third language is it even valid, right? So I've selected Hindi because that's something that I understand, and let me just add it over here, and so you can see there's a third site now available, right? So that's all we needed to do, and if you go back to pages, we should see the third site available here, right? So setting up or making that extra site available in your drop down is that simple, right? So if you're a developer, that's all you really need to do. Now we have set it up, so let's see what how did the website really reflect these changes. So if I just control refresh, and once it loads, let's see if this third language Hindi has appeared over here. So it has not appeared here, right? So so we've added a third language, but it's not appeared there. So we really need to add some content and in this third language, and once we add the content, then it should appear there. So to do that, let's click on Hindi. This will take us to it has reloaded the portal with this particular page. Now of course it has all these icons here which says that this page is not translated yet, so it's available in English but it's not available in this language, and that's fine, that's expected. So now what we need to do is, on the root page, we need to start really copying content from our main language, which was set to English in this case. So to do that, you can either just create an empty page and not worry about any content. You can copy the content from another language, which means that it will copy it in English and not in Hindi, or you can use a translation service. Now there are a bunch of other options that are available. One of them is a manual translation, right? So but that's not what we will really look at. Now if you select manual translations, you really need someone to really translate this for you, and I'll put a link to the documentation. You can read more about it, but what we'll look at today is really configuring a translation service, because at the end we want to automate as much as possible, including the translation service, and then leave the content editors to just make sure that the things that are appearing are valid, and just making sure, just doing the final checks rather than actually sitting and translating it themselves. So let's configure a translation service. Now as you can see, there's only manual translation that's available right now to us, and the reason automatic translation is not available because it is not set up. So to do that, let's from the list of applications, let's search for translations. As you can see, there's one appearing under content management and one appearing under configuration. So let's have a look at both and see what's available. So this is where this is under content management. This is where if you have manually submitted translations, that is what would appear here. So that's not what we want. So I've done this before, and so it has just picked up that earlier manual translation. So let's search for translations again, and what we want to configure really is a translation service. And now as you can see, there's a few translation services here. All of them are enabled, but really it does not really show up, and so what we want to do is we want to set up one of these automatic translations so that it makes life easier for us. And now let's so for this demo, really what we'll do is we'll try and get Microsoft's translator service enabled. So let's click on it and see what do we have here. So it says the service is enabled, which is good. It's a good start. But the reason it's not showing up or is not available on the site is because there's some settings that need to be modified. and it is very kind enough to tell us what settings need to be looked at as well. So let's go on to settings. It says content, and under content you have multilingual, and then you have translation services. There you go. So if I scroll here, I can see that there's this sort of like a settings page, so everything is really empty, and if I scroll down to Microsoft Translator section, I can see that it requires an API key, but it does not really have one, and so that is probably what is stopping the translation service to work. Now, to get this to work, we need to find an API key, and what I've done is I have followed that link. So if you click on Get API Key, it takes you to their documentation page, and it's a fairly straightforward setup. So for this, you will need to have you'll need to sign up to the Azure portal. So you'll need to have an account with Azure, and once you have an account with Azure, you can create a translator resource, right? So this is just the straightforward setup steps to create a resource. From the marketplace, we search for translator service, and then you just you can choose a free tier which is available, and once you create, you'll have the resource available. Now I have this resource created, and I've just named it Translator Dancing Goat Demo. So this translator service falls under their cognitive services category. Now from this left menu here, you would need to go to keys and endpoints, and that's where you get the API key. So what we'll do is we'll just copy the key 1, head over to, just minimize this, and don't worry about the links. I will post the links in the description of the video, so don't have to don't have to worry about copying the link to this page. So I've gone back to Kentico, and what I've done is I've just pasted in the key, and I know this is something that you need to keep secret, but of course this is just a demo resource which I will be deleting the resource, so there's no issues with this. Key will no longer be valid after the end of this video. So let me click on save, and let's go back to translation services, and hopefully the message does not show up now. Cool, so it is enabled, and that's good, and the message does not show up, so the error message is gone because it has been set up correctly. So let's go back to pages and see if we can now use in the Hindi side, let's say if we can now use an automatic translation service. So this is good. It has detected the Microsoft Translator, and we'll actually continue and use that. So just click on the Submit for Translation button, and it should do its magic. So the great thing about this, is that you didn't have to code, you didn't have to add any components that deal with Microsoft's translation APIs, or if you're looking for Google or any other services, you didn't have to write any code for that as well. All you needed to do is just provide an API key, and it has taken care of it, right? So you didn't have to worry about really translating the content as like for like, and showing it in the right places as well. And so Kentico has nicely done this for us. I can see that it has translated the page. If those of you who really understand Hindi, you would know that the content that it has translated to is correct. So this what this really stands for is basically follow us, right? Hame follow kare. That's exactly what this text is. So it is correct. This stands for new customers. So it has translated it pretty quick and pretty correctly as well. And so as you would imagine now, that the next thing would be to really translate each and every page that you want. And of course, for the video, we are not going to do all the pages. Let's just do the home page, and the rest of the pages you just need to follow the same process. You just need to repeat the same process. So let's do it for the home page. Click on translate, translate using translation services, select Microsoft Translator, and click on the submit for translation button. So it has changed home to Ghar, which is correct, and it has copied across the home page and replaced all the English content with the Hindi equivalent. So now let's have a look at the public site. So I'm on a guest profile right now, not signed in. Control refresh, and hopefully it has showed up. Yep. So you have English, you have Spanish, and now you have Hindi as well. So it has showed up. Let's click on it. And as you can see, it's pretty much the standard site, except for everything that is in Hindi. Of course, there are other pages that are not translated yet. The header, the footer, that is sort of like a common, they're common components that were probably part of the main template or the master template, and so that has got translated. But of course, the content itself has not. So let's go back to home. Now, one thing you would notice is that this content here, so although it's on the home page, this content has not been translated. You have the product recommendations, which has not been translated, and of course each and every article, that content has not been translated. So although it's on the home page, it has not been translated. Let's have a look at why it has not been translated. So if you check this out, let me minimize that. So if you check this out, in the page tab, I can edit this section, but I cannot edit this section, and the same goes for all these parts as well. And the reason this is the case is because this is a widget zone, but this is a web part zone, and so these are web parts. So to have a look at why it has not been translated, you need to find out the component itself, for which you would go to the design tab, scroll down, and have a look at the product recommendations, for example. Now if you click on the web part, you'll notice that the product recommendations are not rich text that has been added into the component itself. Instead, it is actually pulling all this data from another source, right? So the same applies to the news articles as well, or the articles. It is actually pulling the information from the articles page. So which means that the data, it doesn't exist in the home page itself. What exists in the home page is just a repeater, like a repeater component that just knows where to pull the information from, but the actual information really is contained in another page, which is in this case under articles, and we looked at the other one, which was I think it was store. So for the articles, for example, if you want this content to be translated, for the article to be translated, you'll have to go onto the articles page. You'll have to go into this specific page and use the translation service to translate the content. Once you have done that, and once you've done, translated the dependencies for everything, then only then will the home page reflect the correct content. So what I'm trying to do here is now just to publish the article, or publish this one article, and it's just a default workflow that has been applied. So just need to complete all these steps. Let's have a look at the page and see if it has made any difference. Was it this one? Was this one, wasn't it? Yeah. So it was this one. So if you click on it, it will show up with all the content as well. So you can go down the rabbit hole of finding content that may or not have been translated, but in essence, I think the main components have been translated, and this video really shows that. And if you want to go deep down this path, then you will have to spend some time translating each and every page, and then making sure all the components have been translated as well. So you can go down that route. Now the last thing is updating in our list of objectives for this video is to update the language selector. And what I mean by that is this little drop down over here. If you see, for English and Spanish, you have a nice word telling you what the language is, but of course for Hindi you don't really have the word Hindi. Instead you have the site name and the culture of the particular language, which is Hindi, and what this stands for really is Hindi hyphen India, right? That's what it really stands for. So we don't want really this information to be displayed to our end user. We want to replace this with the word Hindi. Now to do that, let's jump back to our English site and find that component. Right, so let's maximize this, and since it was in the header, it is probably going to be in the root page, and that's where I've had a look at the design tab, because in the page tab there was no information there. So instantly I can see that there is something called as language selector, which means that the drop down should be coming from here. If I click on the language selector, I can see that the content is coming from something called as the language data source. So that's where the content is coming from, but then there's also some transformations that have been applied. And there's not much information apart from that. So there's obviously the HTML, which there's obviously the HTML that really tells us where it was really placed, but that's pretty much it. And in the language data source itself, just a web part with pretty much no content in itself. So now what really got my attention was the fact that they have used transformations. If I close this and search for transformations, obviously there's none. So the only way to actually edit the transformation is for me to click on edit, and this way I will be able to view the code for the transformation. So what this really does is, for each list item of the drop down, it is adding the value from the variable culture localized name, and of course this HTML encoding this value. And this variable is initialized over here, which gets its value from this particular line of code. Now what this does is it says get resource string, and it is sort of passing the same pattern of resource string that we already had a look at, which is your site name dot culture, the culture code itself. Now it is already passing this, which is Spanish and English, and it has been translating that. So the get resource string has been converting that into the right language or the right label, but for Hindi it has not been doing that. So the first, instantly the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that they are not actually catering for a third language, right? So they've only catered for two languages over here. So let's have a look at what this really method does, right? So let's start over there. Kentico get resource string. Cool. So I've just read. We've quickly browsed through this page. What basically it says is that this is sort of a macro, and is provided by Kentico to be able to deal with resource strings. Now it is this for these two culture code. Obviously, it has been able to translate it, but for Hindi, it has not been able to translate. So the first step really is to try and find the resource string. So what it says over here is you can add your own string, so which is under the localization menu. So if I close this for now, and click on localization, I can see that there's a resource string which is just the first name, and in cultures, if I search for Spanish, for example, this was es-es. It's not really mentioned about, it's not really translating it into Espanol. So it says Spanish, but of course if you search for here, misspelled it, Hindi, although it says it has a short name for that, but obviously does not still show up in the drop down. So to fix this, the easiest way is to really add a resource string, and to do that is click on create a new string, and in the key we will just type in the same key of this format, right? So we'll just type in this these words here. So that's dancing goat dot hi-i, and we will give it these values. So Hindi. Now of course if you actually wanted to translate Hindi into the Devanagari script, which is really what the Hindi literature is or language is, then that's also something that you could just paste it in, but let's just keep it Hindi for now, and see what it looks like and if it really makes any difference. So we have this set here. Let's click on refresh, and instantly you can see that it has already changed it to Hindi, right? So it has passed in the, so the reason this has already worked instantly is of course because in the transformation we have seen that it uses the get resource string method to pass in the key and retrieve the value, and since it wasn't there before, it sort of used a default value of the key itself, but now what we've done is we've added a new resource string, gave it a value, and then refreshed the page, and we can see that now it has been able to sort of map that resource string that it has passed, and it has got a new value here, and so that's why it has really changed it to Hindi. So that's a quick sort of demo of setting up a multilingual site, configuring you're configuring your translation services, and then just working out with or just updating this language selector. Of course, there's a lot more in this space, and to try and find you might come across a certain problem in the multilingual site space which you might need more information about and which is not covered in this video. So if you do need some more information, you can head over to the Kentico multilingual websites documentation, and that should have all the content they're looking for. So this is the multilingual websites homepage. Under that you have all these sub pages, and we have already had a look at a few of them, so feel free to have a look and read through this content. So I'll put the link in the description as well, and of course I'll put the link to resource strings in the description of this video as well. If you do have any questions, please feel free to post any comments below this video, and I will try and get to as many as I can. And finally, the drill of YouTube videos. Subscribe to this channel so that you are notified about about a new video whenever I post a new video. And then finally, if you like this video, just give it a thumbs up, and of course, if you do find this insightful, then share it with your friends and family or with your network. Alright, thank you for watching this video. See ya.